So here's the story. I drove to Fort Worth and the traffic was terrible. I don't know why it was so bad because it started at like 3 o'clock, which is way before rush hour starts. I was driving in the really bad traffic for a long time and it was very stressful. And then I got to downtown Fort Worth and I was running late because of the unexpected traffic and I was all stressed out, and I hate driving downtown. And I didn't know where to go, and my directions turned out to be bad because it said to take a certain exit and then follow the street, but it didn't tell me that the street splits into 2 streets and it didn't tell me which one to take. So I just chose, and it turned out okay, and I found the restaurant pretty quickly, but then I needed to park. And Macy told me that there was a parking garage, but she didn't know where it was, and so I needed to find it. So I was driving up and down the streets in Fort Worth, and like I said, I hate driving downtown. I was getting more and more stressed out, and there are one-way streets, there's stoplights every block, of course, and the sun was shining in my eyes and just all kinds of stuff. I was about ready to cry because I did not know where to go, and I was so stressed out and I was running late. So I finally find a parking garage. It was the first and only parking garage I had seen in that area, and so I went up to it. It was above a bank, and that kind of freaked me out at first. I was a little confused, and so like I started to pull into it and then I backed out, and then I changed my mind again and I pulled back into it. And I took one of the parking ticket things and I parked. Like the first level said bank parking only, but the upper levels seemed to be open for anyone. So like I said, I parked and I walked, like 3 blocks to the restaurant, and I was the first one there. So I waited for everyone, we had dinner, and that was nice. We went to P.F. Chang's, which is a Chinese restaurant, I guess. And then we walked another 3 blocks to the bar. It was a piano bar, which was really interesting, but that's another story. I left the bar kind of early because I was just ready to go, and so I was walking all alone back to my parking garage, which was like 3 or 4 blocks away. And I was texting Marty on my phone because he was signed into MSN Messenger, and I was telling him how it's kind of scary to walk back all by myself in the dark, and he said to be careful. And then I got up to the parking garage, and the driveway where you exit the parking garage had this door, like a garage door, like a metal garage door, shut over the exit, and I started to freak out. I was like, uh-oh, there aren't any parking garages that close at nighttime, are there? So I went over to the door to get into the elevators and stairs because it's closed in, and it was locked. And there's 2 doors, one from each side, so I went to the other side, and it was locked as well. And then I was really getting freaked out. So I walk over to the entrance where you drive in, and that also had metal doors pulled down. There was no way to get up to my car, and I did not know what to do. I was so freaked out. And I noticed that there was a sign right where you drive in that I had failed to notice beforehand that says they close at 6 o'clock and they don't open on weekends. So this was a Friday. I parked on a Friday at 5:30 and they closed half an hour later and don't open all weekend. And so, of course, I started crying and I didn't know what to do. It's like, I live 2 hours away. I can't go get any stuff. I have friends there, so obviously I can get a ride and everything, but all my stuff was in my car and my car was going to be locked in there. So I called Macy and I called Caitlin. They were both at the bar, but neither one answered their phone. And so I called Mama Bear, and she was going to come pick me up, but she wanted me to wait somewhere safe, and so I told her I would call her back with an address where I could wait for her. So I was walking the 4 blocks back to where the bar is because that's where most of the people are, and I felt a little safer over there. And as I was walking over, Caitlin called me back because she had seen that she had a missed call from me. And I answered and I talked to her and explained what was going on, and she said that she would be happy to give me a ride back to Burleson. So I called Mama Bear back and told her that I didn't need a ride. And so, meanwhile, Macy and most of the group had left the bar and gone to a hotel, and Macy didn't have her phone with her, so she couldn't call me. But Caitlin and Joanna were planning to stay at the bar, but Caitlin wanted to help me, so Joanna kind of was left alone at the bar, and Caitlin tried to text her and tell her what was going on. So Caitlin wanted to walk with me back to the parking garage and see for herself what was going on and see if we could figure anything out. So we walked 4 blocks again back to the parking garage, and I'm in heels, and I don't usually wear heels, so my feet are starting to really hurt. So we looked all around again. I mean, we tried all the entrances and tried to walk up to the doors and make them open and all kinds of stuff. Nothing. We couldn't figure anything out. I called the only phone number that was anywhere in sight. It was on a sign that says, if your car has been towed, you know, to call the towing company at this 800 number. So I called the number, and they said they don't know anything about it, and so I just asked them to check if my car had been towed, and they said it wasn't. Which was good news. It just meant that it was locked in the parking garage. So while I'm pacing around trying to think of what to do, Caitlin calls her dad and her sister. And her sister tells her that we should talk to one of the bicycle cops around Sundance Square. So we walk 4 blocks back to the bar because Joanna had not responded to Caitlin's text, and we wanted to let her know what was going on and that Caitlin hadn't abandoned her. And we actually meet Joanna on the street because she was going to her car to plug her phone in. So we let her know what was going on, and she decided to take off. So Caitlin and I went on to Sundance Square and found a bicycle cop, and I told him what was going on. And he was very sympathetic, but he couldn't help at all. He had no idea what to do, and he said that the parking garage was just outside their area of jurisdiction or whatever, so they couldn't do anything even if he knew what to do. But I did get him to give me the phone number to the Fort Worth Police Department, the non-emergency number. And so Caitlin and I started walking to her car. What's interesting is she parked in a parking garage that was like right across the street from where I parked, and I hadn't seen it. And it was a real parking garage, unlike my parking garage. It doesn't close at night, so I wish I had parked there, but I didn't. So we're walking back to Caitlin's car, and I'm calling the police department and explaining the problem to them. And they said they couldn't do anything, but they were going to transfer me to the fire department because they are the ones who can help with parking garage issues. So I go, I talked to a lady at the fire department, and she was very not helpful and non-sympathetic at all. She basically said there was nothing they could do, and she didn't know why the police department would transfer me to them. Hi, Marty. You called me.